Hi out there, this is Heather Vickery, and you've tuned in to the Brave Files podcast. I'm so glad to have you here with us today. Who out there is afraid of failure? Well, I'm willing to bet most of you are, at least some of the time. I know that's true for me. Well, today's guest is here to talk about the magic and art of failing. He even goes by the name The Fail Coach. Today, we're talking about the art of failing fast and failing forward. We're reminded that no magic ever happens in the comfort zone, and the only real failure is not trying or not getting up when you fall. You're not going to want to miss a moment of this episode, so get cozy and stick with us. But before we start the show, I want to know, have you ever thought about starting your own podcast? Have you thought, wow, that would be fun, or gosh, that would be hard, or I really know this would be impactful for my business or life, but I don't even know where to start? Well, then I invite you to join us this Thursday, August 20th at 2 p.m. Central for our So You Want to Start a Podcast live Q&A session with the Podcast Power Academy experts. This is where you're going to get to learn the behind-the-scenes secrets about why this is a great time to start a podcast, how to get started, and how to keep going. Simply visit podcastpoweracademy.com to learn more and register for this free live session. You have to register to get the link. And this isn't a webinar. We're not going to show you a slideshow and just go through some talking points. This is a conversation. So if you've ever thought, I want to start a podcast, then mark your schedule, get registered. We hope to see you there. That address again is podcastpoweracademy.com. All right, now here we go.
Humble, grateful, fail-forward.
This is Heather Vickery, and you're listening to The Brave Files, stories from people living courageously. When we choose bravely in big and small ways, it powerfully elevates our lives. I hope these stories connect with you and encourage you to embrace bravery in every possible way, day after day. Together, we can build a movement of courageous living that enriches both our lives and our communities. And if you enjoy the show, I ask you to please share it with others. Maybe think of someone who you want to choose bravely right alongside you. Thanks for tuning in. Now here's the show. That's awesome. Hey, everybody. This is Heather Vickery. I'm your host here at the Brave Files podcast. I'm really excited to share this guest with you this week, but I have a question before we get started. What does failure mean to you? How do you move through failure, or do you move through it at all? Well, this week's guest, Miha Matlievski, I've been working on that. I don't think I got it right. Matlievski? Yes?
Close enough. Matlievski.
All right. I wasn't too far off. Thank you.
No.
He's here to share his story of epic failure and how, after the devastation, he turned failure into an empire. He now teaches people how to dream big and strive for spectacular failure because it means you're trying and working really hard. So please help me welcome Miha, who is known as the Fail Coach, to the Brave Files. Miha, welcome.
Well, hello, Heather. It's a pleasure to be your guest.
It is. That's so funny. We had obviously, y'all could tell that we had a conversation about Miha's 3 words. And I couldn't help. Normally, I don't laugh in the middle of the guests sharing their 3 words. But when you added the hyphen in, it just tickled me.
Well, I wanted to make sure to make it really 3.
It's 3 words. Yes, we sometimes I will bend the rules just a little and allow a made up hyphen word because it fits. So we're going to get to fail-forward in just a moment. But before we can get there, let's just give everybody a little bit of a background, a very short version of your story leading up to becoming the Fail Coach.
Okay. I'll fly through, and then, if you want to stop me somewhere, go ahead. Or
I will.
Yeah. So I dropped out of high school when I was 17, started working for my father's small business. Was more or less just son by occupation, and life was pretty damn good. Now, unfortunately, every good thing needs to come to an end. And so my father, a few years later, was diagnosed
Mm.
with cancer and died 3 weeks later. So it
Oh
was
my
really,
goodness, that's
yeah.
traumatic. I'm so sorry.
Well, thank you. It was quite a long time ago. But the thing was, I was the only child, and it was like a normal thing that I take over the family business. I had no
Mm.
idea how to run a business. So,
And
very,
let me ask you this really quickly, though. You dropped out of high school because you chose to drop out of high school, not because you were forced to. Is that correct?
yeah, I was just rebel without a cause.
Okay.
Like, why would I
Okay.
learn this? What benefit will
Right.
history make for my life, and so on? And like, I had the most perfect parents in, like, my perfect childhood was like a big reason for everything that happened to me, because
Right.
nobody ever held me accountable. Everything was amazing. I was, like that reincarnation of Jesus Christ, or the new King Midas, or whatever you want to call it. But yeah, that was my childhood, very perfect, and I could do nothing wrong for my parents.
Okay. That's a fascinating point to bring up because we certainly live in a society where we tell our kids how awesome and perfect they are all the time, me included. Um, yeah, that's a double-edged sword, isn't it?
Yeah, that was my huge adversity, which most people can't understand, because, when you talk about adversity, it's, like some abuse in the childhood or something like that. But I mean, I was like a social invalid. I didn't know how to wake up. I didn't know with an alarm clock. I didn't know how to change a light bulb, how to like do things that most people
Okay.
just do on a regular basis. When I was young, when there was stuff to do around the house, my parents would just say, oh, you go and play your video games or whatever. We'll take
Yeah.
care of everything. But that whole thing, I mean, it was perfect childhood. Don't get me wrong, but it
But
it
it doesn't
didn't,
set you up for success, that's for sure.
and it doesn't prepare you for the real life. And
Yeah.
even when I started working for my father's company, it was more like, just do whatever you like doing. We'll give you a huge paycheck, and like, just go have fun.
Wow.
And yeah, it was great. But then, when that happened so suddenly, I had no idea what I'm doing. And
And
everybody thought,
you
oh, he was there for a few years, he must know. So, like, it's only normal that he takes over.
and you didn't know how to do that. You didn't have those
Yeah.
skills
Yeah.
to
But the thing
successfully
was,
do that.
I was always told how amazing I am. So, how can I fail?
You know what? I so appreciate that. I actually had a very similar growing up experience. And so I will say, my kids do know how to do things. But I think it was because, and I don't know if you've ever spoken with your mom about this as you've, you know, developed in your life. My mom had a very difficult childhood. She was expected to do lots of things. You know, she was cleaning the kitchen and doing the laundry at 5 and 6 years old. And she didn't want me to have that experience. So she wanted my life to be easier. And of course, not realizing that there's a middle ground there. You can support your children and you can encourage them and still teach them basic life skills. And so that's the balance I'm attempting to strike with my kids. Not always successful. But do you think that's part of what led to
Yes. Yes.
the perfect child syndrome?
Yeah, both my parents, they had quite a lot of adversity in their childhood, and
Yeah.
in their life. And yeah, like, we'll do everything so that Miha has the most amazing childhood. But yeah, they never found any balance in that. They just went completely overboard. Like, my father, when I was 14 for birthday, he bought me a speedboat.
Oh my goodness.
Just,
Wow.
just
I mean,
because.
well, obviously he did really well in his business, and then you took it over, and what happened?
Yeah, well, things started to go downhill super fast. And somehow, life always gives you lessons, but I never learned anything from this lesson, because somehow I was lucky enough to come across two people who saw something in me, that I am good with people. I am good when it comes to sales, but I just don't do anything else. And so they offered me to take over the majority share, to jump in the company. They'll take care and run the company, and I'll just do the sales and the networking, and that's it. And
Wow.
so they did. but they took the majority share. And yes, I was like really fast, doing amazing. Like we were making 150% more month after month in sales. And
Wow.
quite quickly, there was a lot of money again, good times, Michelin three-star restaurants, fancy hotels, amazing cars, and I was, 20 something. I was flying so high. I don't know, probably I was on Mars in my head. Um, and and soon I became the creative entrepreneur again. And so
Okay.
I started seeing ideas and what I can do, how I can do new creative stuff. But because these guys took majority share, I was like, why would I bring those ideas to this table? I'll just create my own companies.
To
How hard
them.
it can
Yeah.
be. Look at me. I'm flying. I'm so good at sales. I had no idea
I'm
about,
perfect. I can do everything.
yeah,
Yeah.
I had no idea back then, that there's such a thing as company foundation and structure and systems and so on. And the thing was, that was just around, 2005, 6, 7, 8. And the whole macroeconomic situation at that time was flying, like similar to what we see right now. Right now, real estate is just going up. Shares are just going up.
Mm-hmm.
Right now, it's pretty hard to go bankrupt. Pretty hard, even if you have no
Okay. If you say
foundations.
so.
Um, and so I often compare my ex companies with that first house from the Three Little Pigs story. My companies had no foundation and were like a house made out of straw.
Yeah.
And yeah, I mean, the crisis came, the first wind blew. One of my companies was in real estate. I was investing in this huge real estate project, shopping mall, plus apartment buildings on top of it. And the real estate prices dropped. I was in the middle of the project. The bank said, we're out. All my other companies, everything else that I owned was co signing that agreement. They took all of that. I was left with all debt in my other companies. And because I personally signed for a lot of that, I ended up suddenly $5 million in personal debt without an
Whoa.
option to do personal bankruptcy.
Whoa. $5 million?
Yes.
Like, I don't like to be $10,000 in debt. Like, I literally am twitchy at
Yes.
night if I owe $10,000, and that's a cash flow thing, right? You should be able to do that. Holy shit, man! What did you do?
At first, I was like, okay, I can figure it out. I can find a solution. I can find, a project or a contract or this or that. I'll make it happen. And I actually wrote a list of a few ideas, and I started working toward those ideas. I was like, I need to solve this. The thing was, it was unsolvable. I just
Yeah.
didn't saw it. And as the days and weeks went by, that realization was hitting me harder and harder and harder. And also the phone calls from all the debtors started going from, hey, we're just checking up, through, hey, we're gonna file a lawsuit, to we will do this and this to you. So like really just threats. I mean, now I realize that, like they weren't really meaning that they will kill me, but, at that time, I honestly believed that that's what they're going to do to me. And so I went into huge depression, anxiety, stress was like 24/7. My head was like a nuclear reaction waiting to explode. I couldn't find any silence, any peace. I was unable to go out and meet with people. I was unable to be by myself. And of course, slowly that darkness creeps
Yeah.
in. Oh, I used the good portion of the life, and now this is it. This is the new reality. From now on, this is it. I saw no way how I can climb out of this. And then you start asking yourself, like, what's the point? And the idea of suicide creeps
Mm.
in and is, like more and more and more appealing. And yeah, like I'm really speeding through the story, but um, yeah. One night I was on the balcony. My apartment will be taken away in a few days, and I was like smoking a cigarette, and I just climbed on the other side
Oh
of the
my
fence, and
goodness.
I was like with this one hand holding myself and just already inclined over the border and looking down, and I was asking myself, am I gonna do this right, or will I just end up on a wheelchair? Because that will not solve anything.
Yeah. So you're in that moment, you're thinking, am I even going to fail at killing myself?
Yes, yes, yes. And then I started this really heated debate, and I used a lot of very juicy words, so I'm not going to repeat that on your podcast. But it was along the line, like you did this, you made this mistake, you this. And it was hearing myself word you that really like was that first aha moment, because that perfect childhood, whenever something good happened to me, it was just normal that that's me. But whenever something bad happened to me, because that child cannot do anything wrong,
Yeah.
I always found something or somebody else to blame for all the mishaps. And the same was with this, the crisis, the government, the politics, the this, the that. And this was the first time when I really, for the first time in my life, took ownership, this extreme ownership for everything, the good, the bad, and the ugly. But it was, on the other hand, so liberating, because that was the real aha moment, was, oh, but if I was able to make all those mistakes and still did that, if I now learn something and do things differently and change my habits and so on, I can do even bigger. And
Yeah.
that, like, I did it once, I can do it again.
Yeah.
And so that was that aha moment. And yeah, I wrote a huge list of everything that I need to do and change, and then this journey of personal development, business development started. And it was a long journey. I had to change a lot, and learn a lot. And then 3.5 years later, in 2014, I created another startup, got it funded. I scaled that startup from 0 to multiple 8 figures in the first year, multiple 9 in the next year, had a successful exit to Fortune 100 company, and
Wow.
found myself, like, that was in 2017, so that means 8 years later, with this strange thing called the freedom of choice. Because, when you have the freedom of time and the freedom of money, you have the freedom of choice.
Sure.
And that's where I started helping. Like, I was naturally drawn to meetups and co-working spaces and so on, because I can't imagine myself, sitting at a bar talking with the local drunks about the weather and the politics. So I went to events where entrepreneurs were, because that's who I love being around. And they were asking me questions because they heard my story. How did you do this? How did you do that? And I actually just fell into the whole mentoring, coaching
Yeah.
thing. And then when I was brainstorming, like, how do we name this thing? I had a few beers with a friend, and he said, well, you constantly talk about failure and healthy relationship with failure and how important that is. And every story that you say starts with, I failed at this and then I did that. He said, you're a fail coach. And yeah, that's how
I love that.
I became the fail coach.
I really love that. I am of the camp that there is no such thing as failure other than not trying or not getting back up again. How do you feel about that?
No,
Yeah.
absolutely. It's just, why do we call certain things failure, in
Yeah.
my opinion? Often, like, when we start a business, we have these huge hopes and dreams, and positive emotions, like what that will give us, whether it's material stuff or more time or traveling or whatever our why is. But we associate these huge positive emotions, but then because we don't do the process right, we don't lay down the foundation and stuff like that, our business fails.
Yeah.
Like the number one reason is for businesses to fail is no proven product market fit. The second one, cash flow management, and
Yep.
so on.
Yeah.
Um,
We just talked
you
about cash
know,
flow. Yeah.
yeah, and
Yeah.
because we don't do those things right, of course we don't succeed in achieving that goal. And then because we had such huge positive emotions attached to that goal, now we go into the other side, into huge negativity, negative self-talk. And then when you start down that path, you create this negative energy, you feel shame, you feel embarrassment, you don't talk about it, you
Yeah.
don't share. You start thinking, oh, this is just me. I'm the the worst thing in the world is happening to me, and so on. And then you go into why God, what have I done to the world, and so
Yeah.
on, like asking yourself all these things that really won't give you any answers. And because the thing is, the right way to react when mishaps happen is logical, not emotional, because those emotions cloud our vision. So instead of us focusing on the process, figuring out whether we were doing wrong steps or whether there are bottlenecks that we didn't see
Hmm.
and eliminating them and then eventually reaching the goal, we go into this emotional roller coaster. And that's when we say failure. That's the wrong reaction. And that can drag you down, then other things fail, and then suddenly everything is failing around you. And it often
Yeah.
takes a whole lot of time to then pick yourself up. And a failure is the number one reason for suicide among entrepreneurs. Fear of failure is the number one dream killer.
Yeah. Yeah. And again, they don't fully understand that there are just lessons. Like you can learn more, you can plan better, you can make different choices. That is,
Yeah.
yes, really fascinating. I mean, that's the work that I do is helping people set shit up the right way to begin with, so
Yeah.
that it doesn't mean it's going to be wildly successful. And of course, success is self-defined, but it does mean that it's not going to quote unquote flop. And if it does, what do you learn from it, and how do you make a different choice moving forward? But that's a tricky place to be in.
Yes, you obviously have already, developed that healthy relationship with failure. Maybe your upbringing was such. I mean, not everybody is dealing with failure in the same way.
Sure.
There are plenty of people who had, I don't know, parents that, already from a young age were telling them the right thing, how to react in the right way to failure. Or maybe, you're just that kind of person that you react in the right way or whatever. But the thing is that plenty or majority of people, they react with emotions, with negative
Yeah.
emotions, with
Most
negative
people do.
self-talk.
Yeah.
Yeah, and that's the bad thing.
Yeah. It is pretty normal. And so redefining that's again so much of the work that I do, and I know it's the work you do, is redefining how people think and feel about those things. How do they have different
Yes,
conversations and change their
yes.
mindset? Yeah. What do you find in this work is the biggest struggle for you?
For me,
Yeah, for you
um,
personally.
well, I wouldn't say that I like. I mean, there are plenty of struggles. Like a lot, like you have all these inner demons that people have
Yeah,
that they
yes.
need to overcome and so on. But I actually love doing this, so I don't see it as a struggle, but it is hard. And I would say that even though I'm a business coach, probably 70% of the time that I spend with my clients is more life coaching or
Yeah.
therapy in a way. It's just, yeah. And I mean, often when I'm dealing with a few business partners, co-founders, I joke that, I'm doing marriage therapy because we need to figure out the relationship first before we can even start with the business part.
That's all very true. It literally states in my contract that I am not a licensed therapist. I am not a doctor. I cannot give you medical advice, but it does often feel like that. Although, are you familiar with the Prosperous Coach, with Rick Levin's work?
No,
Oh,
no.
oh, it's a great book. Anybody out there who's looking to become a coach, The Prosperous Coach is a really great book. But they talk about the lamppost effect, which is if a person goes out in the middle of the street and talks to a lamppost and spills their guts, they're going to walk away feeling better, because when we tell our stories, we feel better. And the moral of the story is you're better than a lamppost. So
Yeah.
already you're ahead of the game, right? Like, don't be so hard on yourself. You can help people. You're better than a lamppost. So I love that.
That's a good one. That's a good one. Yeah. But yeah, I mean, the whole thing is basically just communication and getting them. Basically, what I try to help them is create that safe environment, because alone they aren't capable, because the debate gets heated quite
Sure.
quickly.
Yeah.
But with me on the Zoom call, I guess out of the respect towards me or whatever, because somebody else is in the room. They hold back a little bit, but then I can create that safe space and get them to communicate in a proper way and really listen to understand, not to respond and so on. So, but at the end of the day, it's more or less is to get them to start communicating, because most of them, they start as roommates or friends or whatever, and it's really to get them in love back again, like
Yeah.
just like in a relationship with a husband and a wife, where you have to take them out of the daily environment and problems and kids and all of that, and like just go on a date, go on a weekend romance getaway, reconnect back with what you actually fell in love with.
Yeah, absolutely. I love that. I love that you're out there helping people do that. I'm curious, does this work that you're doing feel brave to you?
Yes.
Yeah. I love it when you say
Yeah.
that. It's often people who have gone through the lessons of, I'm going to screw it up sometimes and that's going to be okay. The embracing failure as a concept, who are like, hell yeah, it's brave. And then I get other folks who will go, no, I don't think so. So
And Heather, when you call yourself fail coach, most people think now that you're the fail coach, you don't fail anymore. And that couldn't be further away from truth. I fail more, but because I have systems in place, I recognize failure much sooner. I
yeah,
can react much sooner. Plus, I understand that if you want to achieve something big in your life, I mean, us entrepreneurs, we have these crazy big dreams. We want to change the world, go to Mars, and so on. I mean, you ain't gonna achieve that. Like, no magic ever happened in the comfort zone. So you constantly need to push yourself
that's
out
right.
there. And when you do that, the likelihood is bigger that you will fail on your first try than succeed. And so it's very important what your relationship with failure is, for you to be able to fail fast and to fail hype and forward.
I love that. Fail fast and fail forward. I dig it. I really do. I love it a lot. I'm curious. So, being able to recognize something that's about to fail or change your behavior right away to stop it, how do you celebrate those successes, or any successes? How do you like to celebrate?
Usually it's more. Uh, I celebrate them by giving forward. Does
Mm.
that make sense?
Yeah.
I'm not doing what I'm doing for me, but it's like I have these two crazy big whys why I do the whole thing, and basically my fail coach is a tool that fuels those two things, and one of them is Failures Anonymous, which one day I hope will be
I
an
love that.
organization around the world. I already have the domain name and a few videos on the
That's
website,
great.
but it's far from, but I want to create, we did a few test runs locally and it was amazing. Small groups, entrepreneurs sharing, talking, opening up, crying, laughing, amazing guided conversation, amazing breakthroughs, amazing relationship that were formed in that way. So Failures Anonymous is really like, I want to be that momentum starter to break the taboo called failure. That's the goal. I
I
know
dig it.
that I can't eradicate it while I'm still alive, because it's a crazy big goal, but I
Absolutely.
just want to start the momentum. And so, if I want to achieve that, and I don't want to be dependent on some UN or somebody giving me money, I want to fund everything that I do myself. So basically, Fail Coach is my tool to do that. So my celebration is not so much celebration for me, but when I see what I'm doing for others. if that
Yeah.
makes sense.
Yeah, it does. I think it's great. Just as long as, I always encourage people every week to make sure that they stop and feel and acknowledge all of those moments of success, big or small, because that's what gives us the energy to keep going, really more than anything. So it's not just the big things, it's the little things. It all counts.
Yeah, well, that I agree. Then, when I have some failure, like I go and play with my dogs, or with my first lady, we go and like have a dinner, or we do something, or like, so yeah, we
Yeah.
we do these little celebrations all the time.
I love that. And I love that playing with your dog is a form of celebration. I think that that's true. There are so many different ways to do it. So thank you for sharing that with us. It's super fun. Miha, I'd love to know, what is your favorite charitable organization to support?
Well, it's in the making, but that's the second why. Throughout that journey of mine, when I was going out of that depression and anxiety and all that, I ended up adopting a stray dog
Mm-hmm.
that basically saved my life, and is my
Mm.
angel. And since then, I adopted more dogs. And that's why 2.5 years ago, I moved to Eastern Europe to help saving and rescue the dogs. So that's what I do during the day when I'm not coaching.
Wow, I love
Um,
it.
yeah, and that's the second why is another non-profit organization where I want to buy vans and transform them into mobile veterinarian clinics, and do educational stuff and things like that. So it's in the making, but yeah, that's like really what fuels me going forward, because that dog Happy, I mean, he's still my dog. He gave me so much, and I know I need to give back so much more, because I wouldn't be here without him for sure.
Yeah, I've heard that from a number of guests on the show, that their pets really were a part of saving their lives. It just goes to show you how much heartbeat connection matters, right?
Yes.
Yeah, I think that's awesome. Well, Miha, this was a lot of fun. You have a really fun energy, and it's such a valuable thing, especially for folks. I don't know how old you are, but I'm 45, and I think a lot of my contemporaries, for sure, had that experience where their parents didn't want to put them through, hard work or trauma because they'd been through it themselves. And the pendulum swings both ways. So, nobody's perfect. We can all make mistakes. And I just love that you've encouraged everyone to fail fast and fail forward. So, y'all, if you're not failing, you're not trying. Remember that.
Yes.
Yeah. Miha, can you share your 3 words with us one last time?
Humble, grateful, fail, hype, and forward.
Still makes me laugh. Those are awesome words. I love them. You certainly are humble, and I can hear the gratitude. I'm a gratitude girl. Everybody who listens knows that I've written 2 books and journals on gratitude. It's a powerful, powerful thing, life-changing, scientifically proven thing to increase happiness and well-being. Do you have a gratitude practice, Miha?
Yes, I do. Like every day I go through that, and every day, like a few years ago, I came across a quote from Albert Einstein saying, don't be just a man of success, rather be a man of value.
Yeah.
Like his definition is a little bit different, but I took it as like every single day I need to do something of value to others. And so every single day there's at least some little thing that I do for random acts of kindness and so on, and I kind of keep a little gratitude journal and so on, because all of those things, like I often say, yes, I had a lot of money back then. Now I'm not even close to those numbers, but I really do feel like a billionaire, if not even
Yeah.
more, in my heart through what I can do, and how I can help others, and create a better world.
Love that. I love that so much. Y'all, if you don't have a gratitude practice, get one. Miha and I both think you should. And I have the greatest tool and resource for that. Just look for Shift Your Focus or Grow Grateful. Those are my gratitude journals. You can reach them on Amazon or through my website, vickeryandco.com. I totally did not mean to plug that, but I'm just saying they're guided and they help you build this new habit that's absolutely life changing. And I love, Miha, that you said it allows you to feel so abundant and so wealthy, and it's not about money. It's not even
Yes.
remotely about money. Yeah.
Yes.
Very cool. Well, thank you so very much for being here with us.
Well, it was my pleasure, and it was so lovely being your guest.
All right, folks, thanks so much for listening. I can't wait to hear how you are out and failing fast and failing forward. You can give us a call at 312-646-0205 and share those stories with us. We really want to hear them. And how are you out choosing bravely every day? If you love what we're doing here at the Brave Files, it would be such an honor to have you join our Brave movement by becoming a supporter on Patreon. We have lots of different tiers that can meet anybody's needs. There are all sorts of goodies, and then you get to be part of helping us grow and do bigger, braver, bolder things together. We cannot do it without you. So visit us at patreon.com/bravefiles. Find a tier for you and join our Brave movement today. Thank you so much for being here. This is Heather Vickery reminding you today and always to go out and choose bravely. Hey friends, I want to share something really exciting with you. We already know you enjoy listening to podcasts because you're listening to this one, but I'm also betting you enjoy audiobooks. And hey, listen, if you don't already enjoy audiobooks, then it's time to check them out. That's why I'm really excited to share Libro.fm with you. They are an incredible new platform for listening to audiobooks. And by choosing Libro.fm over other audiobook services, you are supporting a local bookstore of your choice and investing in your local community. Libro.fm offers over 150,000 audiobooks via their primary platform, which, by the way, they built with love and from scratch because they're a small business also. They even offer bookseller recommendations for great audiobook options. You can sign up right now via www.vickeryandco.com/LibroFM. That's vickeryandco.com/LIBROFM. And when you do, you'll get one free audiobook of your choice, and the proceeds will go to your favorite local bookstore. Now, check what I just said there. You're going to get a free book, and the proceeds are still going to go to your local bookstore because Libro.fm makes sure that their booksellers get paid even when they give a promo to customers. I've listened to over 20 audiobooks this year alone. I especially love listening to memoirs read by the author, and it feels great knowing that all of my purchases support my local bookstore, The Book Table, in Oak Park, Illinois. Libro.fm. The same audiobooks, the same price, but a completely different story. Check them out right now at vickeryandco.com/LibroFM. You've been listening to The Brave Files, stories from people living courageously. To learn more about the show, find our show notes, or get some great bonus content, visit thebravefilespodcast.com. And we'd love to know what you think. You can give us a call at 312-646-0205. Let us know your thoughts on the episode, the show in general, or maybe share with us how you're out choosing bravely. This episode is brought to you by Vickery & Co. Success Coaching, coaching that helps you maintain a life well lived and a business well run. Learn more at vickeryandco.com. Our music is produced by Matt Lewis. Follow him on Instagram at mattmmusic or visit his website, theunionband.com. We couldn't do any of this without our extraordinary audio engineer, Andrew Olson. Learn more about him and check out his work at findandrewolson.com. And special thanks to our associate producer, Kim Statler. I'm your host and executive producer, Heather Vickery. Thanks for tuning in, and we'll talk to you next week.